Alrighty, hello everybody. So guess what? We're doing this in a different format today. And by the way, if you're wondering how on earth these random liches and whatever else are doing 200 frickin' damage, allow me to introduce you to the absolute joy that is Agony in Palace of the Dead. Definitely lives up to its name in the mod. Basically, the way that it works is just the closer you are to the middle of your health bar, the more damage it does, which means that a lot of these ghosts may just sit around on poison tiles and then suddenly take 200 damage in poison, and then come back and just spam 200 damage every single turn, which is fantastic when it's coupled with something like a fairy who will, stop, stun, or just paralyze you for, well, not paralyze, but just basically lock you into place for a while. So, needless to say, this was a fantastically fun experience. Basically, yeah, every single map in about the 50 to 70 range ended up taking something different on account of those constant Agony ghosts. Okay, so that part sucked. I mean, there were a few easier ones. This part was hilarious because there's this one knight that kept trolling me over and over. Just kept parrying, kept stealing my frickin' loot, kept getting in my way. And yeah, this particular map I think took me like 4 or 5 tries because she just kept getting in my dang way. Didn't really get too many amazing drops, but yeah, this lady, up to almost 27% on her parries, just keeps on parrying everything like an absolute troll. Oh yeah, and she got up to 30. So yeah, Daisha here has absolutely no chill when it comes to parries. She's basically been playing Dark Souls 24/7 since it came out. But yeah, this map in particular, I don't hate it, but I don't like it. Like, when you start it up top, it's fair enough. When you start up at the bottom, it's kind of an absolute pain. This was just a few random pictures, because I was taking a break from everything to be able to go do some vanilla. But anywho, Beel's Booth. This is the one that probably took the single longest in this entire session, this entire update here. She took me about a frickin' month. Thing is, I was relying on Claws as a cleric up to this point. Well, kind of since the last update, because you could eventually scale some of their damage up pretty crazy. Since almost everything uses Dark down here, using something like Frighten can easily give you about 500 damage off of a finisher, which meant that, yeah, it seemed like a pretty solid idea. So I was doing about 230 on a crit with Claws to her. She is actually very, very, very tanky. By the way, got frustrated, went back to vanilla a little bit more. You go back to vanilla because it's the comfortable one that gives you happy thoughts, like zombies taking their helmets off. Anyway, eventually ended up opting for the Megiddo strategy, so I was figuring, okay, Legion Armor gives good evasion, some good strength bonuses, getting a lot of damage off that sword, doing about 300 plus per swing. Seems pretty solid. Can insta-crit some units, like any of the casters or whatever else. Can parry and deflect rocks straight out of the air. It just always looks cool when that happens. And they kept casting all this kind of stuff, which meant that Grand Cross was getting weakened. So that approach wasn't really happening, so Sonic Blade was the way to go. To kind of briefly explain, if anyone was unfamiliar, basically the way Prevailing Element works is if a lot of one element gets cast, so for example most of the ghosts are casting Word of Pain and stuff like that, and all of the casters and everything, if they do that, Dark gets stronger, Holy gets weaker. So in this particular case, yeah, I needed something ideally that was either a basic element or anything but Holy. So eventually, yeah, built for Sonic Blade here, figured I would fly up close, I would hit her a couple times, and done deal, right? Well, I kept getting blocked, even in cases like this, where I could get her into a corner. Even when I got power almost entirely maxed out, I would end up being at almost no health, and would end up being just barely shy of being able to finish her off. So went for a different approach, switched over to Worm Scale for that slight boost in attack score and a little bit more strength. Once again, she was sitting and trolling and monologuing, as she does, and then ended up getting put to sleep by those dang golems over and over. Just like Granite Fist was in the vanilla game, Shockwave definitely is in this one, because they can just sit there and basically do the whole Donkey Kong thing with Shockwave. Anyway, eventually ended up getting her down. This was on account of a random witch decided to try to hit me with a stick, hit her with a counter, and long story short, the healer couldn't heal her all the way. Beel's Booth decided to try to heal her using her own self, and that finally opened up, allowing finishing her off with that Sonic Blade there, which allowed for finally moving on to other maps. I cannot tell you, like, it seems so simple, but she is weirdly tanky. Like, to the point where, yeah, even with the crazy damage that this guy does at this point, I could not get above, like, 450. It got pretty stupid. But, well, I mean, in most cases, it took a lot to get there. Picked up the Stardust here. Never really found a use for it, but it's just kind of cool. I always like this map in particular. This map I absolutely hated. Ended up skipping this stupid thing. God, no. Yeah, no matter what approach I took to this particular map, and I may have a better option going for it a second time, but, oh, good lord, screw this map in every one of its iterations. So yeah, tried a whole bunch of different approaches here. Oh, by the way, on Beelzebooth, before I forget, with her updates and everything else, she comes in with like 5 or 6 Aug Dark naturally, not to mention gear that boosts it. So she can be running around with +7 Aug Dark. I have seen her do 500 plus damage on this guy. Yeah, it's kind of wacky. Anywho, yeah, lots of spamming Grand Cross for AoEs and things like that. It was scaling up enough that it was still pretty dang useful around this point. Something hilarious about a fairy trying to attack this guy that can dish out several hundred damage with a frickin' fan, but whatever. Lots of maps wound up with this whole situation where you just piled up on debuffs. Had a few opportunities where it was kind of open to use some cooler moves. This one also took me a surprisingly long time. I kept getting knocked out here over and over and over and over. The spawns are not really that different, thankfully. So it did allow for kind of optimizing against it. But yeah, for the most part, you're dealing with 2 flyers, a bunch of ninjas, some gremlins, but yeah, those gremlins will eventually cause problems. With Grand Crosses by this point, was throwing out some pretty crazy damage, as you can see. And so eventually the goal just became to be surrounded by all of the light flyers, Grand Cross all of them, and then just try to melee fight everything else. Now that I think about it, you know what? The Megiddo looks a hell of a lot like that, what's that, the Xenogears guy's weird sword thing? Is that what it's supposed to be? Because I think it's called something else. I could be wrong. I did try spears here for a little while, but that was just no-go. I would keep getting most of the way through the fight and then just get either crit off something or just finished off in some really weird way. Especially with the cockatrices, they had to go. Like this one in particular, just screw that layout entirely, because eventually it would get petrified. And there's no real option or no real feasible option at this point to resist everything that they throw out. If you try to resist, like I can resist stop and stun just off my equipment there, but they've got charm darts on the gremlins, they've got, oh, and by the way, I tried to use the Stardust here. It wasn't very good, but whatever. I tried to use, so yeah, I can resist stun, can resist stop, can petrify would be ideal, but then you get stuff like charm, which is wasting your turns. Charm and Bewitch were a pretty regular problem. Poison was a pretty regular problem. This just kind of got etched into my brain for this dang map. Again, not as bad as Beelzebooth. That one I got so annoyed by that I just stopped taking screenshots for a while. Eventually, though, you know, the dice roll your way. I think at some point I have a screenshot here where I actually was going back to play vanilla for a little bit, and then didn't realize that I actually loaded the One Vision save, and then just kind of ran the map in vanilla. Surprisingly, it was even harder. But then again, you know, two-handers kind of blow real hard in the base game, so there's that. But, anywho, so I kept trying all kinds of different approaches at different sides, and finally, it was kind of another attempting to kind of pull a sort of COD-type approach, where I would get them to funnel in from 2 different sides, take them out one by one, and this was eventually the strategy that ended up winning the day here, on account of a lot of good parries and a lot of other things. And there's a lot of little nuances coming together for this build. Basically, what ended up becoming very clear is heavy armor was definitely the name of the game at this point. There's a lot of different points where we might need a lot of different things, but this guy's evasion is so high at this point that he's able to get away with running heavy armor and take a few extra attacks and still come out at a far more positive way than actually being faster. So by this point, surprisingly, it's kind of the opposite of vanilla, where being heavier armored is actually a lot more beneficial than actually running around naked. It's kind of odd, but, you know, whatever works. So at this point, this map was mostly handled by just sitting like an absolute chicken in the corner here. This lady thought she was going to go be a repeat of that night from before. Spoiler, it did not go well for her. And by the way, this way at least we don't have that weird shutter effect in between pictures. Kind of moving around looks weird, though. Yeah, we have the the world's most courageous Fusilier over here, trying his best, but didn't end up going well. Eventually just ended up paralyzing him, running around to go collect all the items. This map in particular, I think, is the one where you get Lippel's staff in the normal game. I don't think there were any... There really weren't too many unique drops that I ended up getting through most of the rest of the Palace of the Dead. Because by this point, what it ended up coming down to was just like, okay, I'm close to the end here. I might as well pick up Secrets of the Master. Maybe I'll get a Crissaegrim. That'll be pretty cool, right? We'll get to that. Anyway, so lots of evade going on from those guys. Actually, that was the one hoplite that was just a genius, because he kept turning on evade right before attacking, just tanking those 300-plus hits like crazy. This map was pretty refreshing, because it was just kind of like a straightaway to beat on... Nobody was beating off a bunch of ninjas. But anyway, they kept setting themselves up like this, where they would get caught off in the corners. And you may notice a little strategy coming together here, where, you know, I was noticing, okay, if you get Rampart Aura 4, you get them stuck off in that kind of triangle shape, and then you use a Grand Cross on them. That's pretty strong. I wonder if we can optimize that more later. We'll get to that. So this map is the one where petrification happened over and over and over and over and over. But we're so frickin' tanky by now, and I think I actually ended up leaving the flight boots behind in order to just go full tank mode. But yeah, there was... I don't know where the breakpoint was. Somewhere in this process, I believe through most of these random fights through the Palace of the Dead, I ended up getting an extra like 10 to 15 points in base stats across the board. This wasn't enough to be able to completely, you know, negate all damage by far. All it still took was still like a good 3-4 hits, and that was it. But overall, the defensive options were working a lot better than before. So, for example, would get a turn to recover due to units getting stuck in Rampart Aura, would be able to take fewer attacks on account of counter working so well, would be able to get units stuck around corners to be able to de-aggro them a little bit, or maybe avoid debuffs, that kind of stuff. Mostly I was using flight boots in situations like this, where I don't even know if I used it on this map, actually. Ooh, I ended up getting a fancy dagger at some point. I forgot about that. But in most cases... Oh yeah, I ended up getting one of those too. I didn't realize I already had one. But yeah, mostly I was avoiding the flight boots where possible, because it just started to become clear that evasion's so high by this point that I'm really just better off tanking. Tanking and removing debuffs than working the other way around. This one was annoyingly difficult, actually. Because, yeah, Megiddo, its health suck does not work on the undead, so doesn't really do too many wonders here. And I was trying really hard to avoid going back to the cleric. This was a pretty important drop for later. Where yeah, one of the I forget what the hell it was that dropped it, but one of them dropped the Aegir whip. So by this point, I have two whips that don't seem like much yet. So we've got the Avernalis and the Aegir. The Aegir is good against dragons and water. The Avernalis is good against beasts, I think, and it's wind. This doesn't seem like much yet, but we'll get to it. So this map was a really fun puzzle to figure out, actually. So at first I was thinking like, okay, I'm just going to go up the stairs, charge in. Doesn't work. I try going backwards, thinking like, okay, I'll lure the golems in. For some reason, I thought the golems were the ones that dropped the Notos, because I did intend to get it this time around. Guess what? Like a complete dipstick, I did not do that. Anywho, so it turns out, yeah, it's the Terranites or something like that on this map that drop the Notos, but I did basically say if I complete a map, you know, that's that. So yeah, I thought it was the golems. I figured, screw it, maybe it just moved somewhere else. I was really tired by the time I was doing this one. So finally, the way kind of became clear here, where I would just need to go around the back of the map. Just kind of get myself stuck in that upper corner there. But these golems, man, the golems do not care about odds whatsoever. They will constantly hit. So this approach still took a few tries. On more than one occasion, yeah, like right there, we just end up getting hit by stuff over and over. But yeah, the golems, like, if you see that corner on the top right, I thought that was a safe corner until I realized that they could snipe right over it, throw you straight off into the poison. That particular combo got me a good 3 times, because I kept thinking, like, okay, that was just bad luck, that was just bad luck. Nope. That's just called golems don't give a crap about the odds. So finally, this was the one that did it. I would get everybody close to the wall, use a Grand Cross on the barricades and rocks and things next to the wall, and then just snipe them from down below, taking advantage of the fact that AoE abilities stop caring about the actual vertical range in certain situations. So I was just sitting there chowing on all the ginseng I'd bought before, you know, attempting to do other things. This was the one time I actually ended up using ginseng. And yeah, then I found out that the Megiddo actually works just fine without worrying about vertical range, so that was an approach too. Ended up using the last bit of the flight boots to get right back up there again, hoping for the best. Then got knocked out over and over and over, and this is that Donkey Kong combo I was talking about. But yeah, finally, it was time for Nibith. I did end up getting out of that one, but I thought I took more pictures. So Nibith, right? I did a dumb, right? I thought, for some reason, I was mixing up Nibith and the Lich King, because if you aren't doing Nibith, you get Lich King down here, which means you can get the full Ogre set, which would be fantastically useful. You know what? This guy isn't the Lich King. Apparently he is the Diet Lich King. You can get Secrets of the Master, as well as many of the craftable drops from him. But yeah, this one took a lot of different approaches, because I was originally going for the full Powerhouse build. Similarly to Beelzebooth, I was running into a situation where I knew I would have to take multiple attacks to finish him off. I could get him to aggro with his staff, but the actual odds of being able to pull everything off were pretty unlikely. However, running Deflect, plus being able to fly, plus being able to use Rampart Aura, caused them all to lock themselves up in a weird way where... Oh, by the way, one of the ghosts kept going to the top of the volcano for some reason. But yeah, it would just cause them to lock themselves up in a weird way. So my approach to this one became heavy armor plus flight boots, then fly in there, use the lifesteal on him. Basically, if anyone's played RuneScape before, the Megiddo is basically the SGS, the Saradama Godsword thing there. So it steals health twice, and it's equivalent to a pretty heavy hit. So I can more or less heal about 300 to 400 health with that thing. So yeah, my approach just became get close, use that, and then hope that he lines himself up in such a way that I'd be able to do something. And so either his gremlins would repeatedly heal him, or he did some lifesteal crap, or any kind of nonsense kept happening over and over. This guy loves his band-aids for some reason. But eventually, this did finally end up lining itself up. I don't remember how many attempts. I want to say like 7 or 8 attempts to get this to line up properly. I was a bit upset by the fact that this was so RNG heavy towards the end there, but, you know, it's Palace of the Dead. It's a hell of a lot of units. There's so many moving parts that there's very few ways to make this consistent in a game like this. So, yeah, this process kept repeating over and over, kept getting weirded out by his freaky jawline. I kept running into this situation where I was just barely short of being able to finish him off. Good coffee. But yeah, finally, I ended up running into this, so got it, finished him off, and so I thought, you know what, let's actually, I completely missed the part where I came in here as a thief for a little bit. I got a pinion and rack and a guide and the Secrets of the Master. I was kind of upset at not getting an Orichalcum. We'll get to that later. But anyways, yeah, so it turns out Orichalcum gets dropped by these guys over here in the tar pits. This is a cool thing, because apparently they drop a whole lot of different things. So Sky Iron, Orichalcum, all that kind of thing. And it turns out you need 3 Sky Iron for the Dragon Slayer. By the way, I apologize that I'm kind of jumping all over the place. Let me actually pause it real quick so I can explain something. So, let's go back to this... Orichalcum situation real quick, right? So we just gotten Secrets of the Master. Alright? So I was thinking, okay, got the pinion, got the rack. All I need is that orichalcum to be able to build a Crusaegrim. I didn't realize, and I should have realized this because it was in the patch notes ages ago. But yeah, those guys, on top of dropping Sky Iron, do drop your fancy green rocks. Thing is, I could have had a Crusaegrim, but I figured, okay, screw it. You know what? I'm not going to go back to Palace of the Dead. I'm not going to go get another, orichalc. I'm not going to bother with that crap. I'm going to build whatever I'm going to build. So I build a Jamflagrog, that thing, the jam gloves, the Hulk hands, alright? And then and then end up building a grapple brace with one of the orichalcum, and end up building or it's like the hook shot or something now. I forget, it changed names. And then end up building the Dragon Slayer, and then, what was the other thing? Yeah, Bracer Hook, that's the thing. And yeah, with the white glove, with the Hulk hands, end up going Og Earth, end up going for that whole thing. There's a weird thing that despite this guy's crazy stats, despite everything else, those gloves do pretty kind of iffy damage against golems still. But yeah, got pretty pissed when I found out that you could get the orichalcum there, because I could have had a Crusaegrim instead of both of those things. So yeah, kind of a total waste. I think I built Shaper's Touch as the other item. Not sure, but got a few more unique drops. Most of this stuff I can't or won't use. Went to go do the Water Temple. It didn't go well. At this point, I know what I should be doing there. So then sold a crap load of things, ended up deciding to go for a bit of a different approach, because it was time, at long last, to implement the Lord into the run. So I beefed up as you can see by the evade symbol here, I did end up beefing up the Buccaneer, ended up beefing up the Lord, ended up getting stats all over the dang place. And then, did I do Heretic? I don't think I did Heretic, because there really wasn't too much that I needed from it, because what I wanted was the old Zeo build, my old favorite build for One Vision, aka the heavy tank whip nuker. So somewhere I had read that you can get a Tooth and Claw here, which is the last thing that I needed to. That's what it was, to make Shaper's. Was it? Oh, I built a Void Ring for some reason. I think it was Shaper's Touch I was looking for. I needed Tooth and Claw or something like that for something. But somewhere I had read that you could get that from the Lizardmen in the swamp, and I didn't feel like going all the way through Farampa Forest to be able to do that again. Well, ended up leveling up the Lord while doing so, and it started to become very clear that this little moderately powerful whip build was suddenly becoming very good, because stuff would get stuck in the Rampart Aura. Stuff that could actually get through it was fairly limited, so I had plenty of space to deal with things. Deflect was very high, and so many things end up using Dark Elemental stuff, especially on the enemy side, that the actual damage on Armageddon ends up scaling to just obscene levels. So anything that isn't dark tends to already be weaker by default. Most of the dark stuff tends to be stronger already. And when they are attacking in ways that speed up your own moves, it is amazing. And then I realized that using Wisp was a terrible idea because it actually made my super move weaker. Whatever. Anyway, so all these maps that were previously giving me a ton of trouble, they became a cakewalk. I would just kind of walk in there and spam Armageddon over and over and over and over. They would get stuck in this Rampart Aura bubble, like in this little formation that you see here. When health gets low, use a heal 3. When debuffs happen, Tabula Rasa. Like, you could easily do Tabula straight into another Armageddon. It chains so dang well. And so, yeah, I was just curb stomping through after realizing about 20 turns into that swamp map that I wasn't getting my Tooth and Claw. Decided to go for this other drop location that was mentioned, which was over here. I don't believe I ended up getting it anyway, so that kind of sucks. I think it was Shaper's Touch I was trying to build. I can't remember for certain, but either way, was very happy with absolutely absurd damage. Got a Crucible Arc. For some reason, I thought that was fancier than it was. It's a stupid assumption, but again, I was kind of tired when I was doing this. So, you know, on we went. Little gremlins stealing my loot, as usual. That probably would have been the Tooth and Claw, who knows. Actually, no, I don't think it was even on this map. But yeah, we can one-shot dragons with Armageddon now. Ended up picking up the fist, which I thought was unique. It was not. I already had it. Now you might be saying, wait a minute, what about, why would you go do Hanging Gardens? I forget if I mentioned that part yet. Next plan is to do Hanging Gardens. Why would you go do Hanging Gardens? There's still the Super Whip to get, right? There's still the, what was it, like Rudra's Braid or something like that? Or the Grimalkin, there we go. Don't you want to go get the Grimalkin? It'll make all your nuke moves even stronger. But will it, though? Because I don't think we even need it anymore, is the thing. We can't go full, like, crazy Dark Augment or anything else, because we still need either the, well, we basically need either the blue necklace or we need the Reaver's Ring. And by this point, we can already just one-shot stuff. Ended up picking up Cudgel and Whip again. Again, I thought I was doing something unique. I wasn't. And you can see how crazy this damage is going. By the end of this fight... okay, the bow I know is unique because I didn't pick it up the first time around, I think. 999 damage with Armageddon. That's where we are at this point. He's at 31. So now it's just going to start repeating. But anyway, that's kind of that for the update this time around. Yeah, next time we finally do Hanging Gardens, it's been insane. I know that there hasn't been a stream for one of these in a while. I'm hoping to remedy that soon. Life has been beyond complicated lately, but I'm hoping that we can finally get through story mode, and then after that, come to think of it, okay, bit of a vote on this one. Do you want to see a stream of Hanging Gardens and Coda as its separate thing, or do you want me to do what I did the first time around, wherein I essentially just do all of that as one long, properly edited video? Alright? Let me know what you think, and yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Thank you for keeping up with this run. It's been a crazy one, but yeah, can fully confirm at this point that that heavy tank Armageddon spam kind of nonsense actually viable for the solo at this point. And that'll be that. Guys, have a good one. Take care. Hope y'all are still staying safe out there.